What is crackin', everybody? It's Pieman here, and welcome to the GOGcast, known as GOGCast, the one and only podcast for GOG.com. It may not be the one you wanted, but it's the one you got. Unfortunately, our normal host, Screaming Joypad, also known as Mike Smith, is not available. He is, I believe, in London this particular day, and not available for GOGCast, so you get me hosting it! Woo! This is going. Hopefully, nothing will catch on fire. We do have a good number of guests today. We do not have a developer with us. Well, we kind of have a developer with us. We have the special guest of one Mr. Bob Ross joining us today. He's not going to say anything. Unfortunately, he's come down with a bit of cold, a disease known as being a picture. So he's not going to move or say anything. But just know in your hearts that Bob Ross knows you're there. Going on with Bob Ross, we also have, as soon as I unmute them, don't talk to me until I unmute you, because nobody can hear you. We have Outstar Walker.
Pi, I hate you for ruining my wonderful layout with red fonts. I hate you so much.
We have Memories in 8-bit.
Hello, everybody.
And we have the Crocs.
Good evening, everyone.
I will apologize ahead of time if the face cams end up being choppy or anything like that. I'm noticing it a little bit. Hopefully it won't stay being a problem, and we will see how things go in the future. If there are choppiness issues, I apologize, but we're doing the best we can here on a short period of time. But considering the fact that we actually do not have a developer to talk to today, unless you guys would like to have one-way conversations with one Mr. Bob Ross, we can go immediately into talking about this week's releases on GOG.com.
You can't do that.
Are you guys okay with that?
Yes, absolutely.
But Mr. Bob Ross has really a very good webcam image. It's like sharp, wonderful.
I know, it's you could say it's picturesque.
Yes, definitely.
Absolutely beautiful.
And he's painting while being on the podcast. That's classy.
Well, I think it kind of just froze like
no
that.
sense for the people listening to the audio-only version, but, well, too bad.
I know. I apologize to the audio only. Just, if you ever played the game Gods Will Be Watching, which is available on GOG.com, the disease that they get that causes them, like Medusa disease that causes people to freeze in place, that's what Bob Ross has right now, unfortunately. It was a bit of an inopportune time because he's in the middle of smiling and painting, but, you know.
I'm trying to think if this is actually okay to talk about the imaginary sickness about the deaf person. I'm not really sure, but it's okay. It's okay.
It's okay to talk about it because we already talked about it. That's why it's okay. it's the beans have been spilt. So.
All right, Desroy, I upped my volume a little bit.
All right, so let's get into talking about some games. The first game that we're going to talk about on this list is one that the people here who've been watching the stream just saw. It's a game called Enter the Gungeon that was streamed by our one and only Memories in 8-bit. It's a game.
So good.
It's a game about a dungeon that's a gun, I imagine.
Yeah, pretty much. A huge bullet fell from the sky, and now that's a dungeon, and people go in there because it holds a gun that can kill the past. And of course everybody wants to have that. And it's really a really good game. Like if you liked Nuclear Throne, then I think you're gonna love Enter the Gungeon.
Enter the Gungeon is by Dodge Roll Games, and I believe it's another Devolver Digital title.
Yes, it is. This is published by Devolver Digital. And yeah, it's like really polished, and for a game with pixel art, it's like really detailed. Like you can destroy a lot of furniture that is in the room, and the gameplay mechanics with the dodge roll which you have there, and all these different kinds of weapons that are really totally varied and really are game changers. It's a really it has a really polished gameplay, I would say.
It's a roguelike, I believe.
Yeah. Yeah, roguelite.
Roguelike. How would you compare it to other roguelites you've played? I don't know how many you've played outside of Tower of Guns. You can't really compare the two, even though both are obsessed with guns. Tower of Guns is a first-person shooter, whereas the Gungeon is a top-down sort of a deal. But how would you say it compares to some of the other roguelikes you've played?
Well, I would say like I think it was somebody in chat has already compared it as a mix between The Binding of Isaac and Nuclear Throne, and I think that's actually kind of fitting. Even though I haven't really played all that much Isaac, to be quite honest. But with all the different sort of items which you can get in The Binding of Isaac, and the general gameplay, I think this comparison is actually very, very fitting. And yeah, it's a fun game, and there is actually sort of like a meta progression, like you can free people from the dungeon, and later there will be at the breach, which is kind of like the foyer or the entering level of the dungeon, and there you can like unlock new weapons and whatnot. And there's surely more stuff which I haven't discovered yet, because there's still more rooms at the entry which are still locked off. So yeah, there is a lot of stuff to discover, and also in between runs. So you don't always start completely from zero, if you think of it like that.
That reminds me a bit of what was it? Crib the Necrodancer. I believe you could save people as well, and like they would unlock shops.
Exactly.
I don't know if you could do that in Rogue Legacy. I think Rogue Legacy you could buy people. Buy the ability to go to shops, not buy people. That would be a little bit odd. They haven't. I haven't seen a game that can do that yet, or at least a roguelike game. I've not had the chance to play Enter the Gungeon. I do have it, but unfortunately, every time I launch it, it gets to like the Devolver Digital logo screen and then crashes on me every single time.
I've actually read a little bit about that. They submitted a patch today, and I got that before I started the stream. Apparently, that fixes like
it doesn't fix crap.
Yeah, no, it fixes a few issues that are about configuration files or something that crash the game when it launches. But apparently, there is still another one connected with AMD cards, apparently, is what
that's
the
what I got.
Have written.
I have an AMD card. I've not seen anything online about anybody having any issues. When I Google Enter the Gungeon crashes, literally nothing comes up.
You know what's the reason why? Because everyone is switching to NVIDIA Master Race, and I think we have to submit.
I don't have money for that, all right? I don't have money for your NVIDIA GTX 900 cards, okay?
I'm also in the AMD peasant race, okay? So I know what you feel. I know your feelings.
I have an AMD Radeon 7800 series graphics card. And that's probably what I'm going to have for the next 20 years.
If you will have money, you gotta buy yourself a second monitor to be able to read the chat while streaming.
I gotta get a second monitor. Yeah, I'm the guy who doesn't have a second monitor, so I can't play games in full screen for live streaming. So let's just think about how soon we're gonna get another graphics card.
The thing is, I played Enter the Gungeon so much in full screen, and while I was setting up, I wanted to play it in window mode, so I could put the chat aside, so I had chat and the game on the same monitor. But everything suddenly was so small, I was like, no, I have to play this in full screen, because otherwise I will suck even more at the game than I already do. It's because it's a very hard game.
That's kind of how I felt.
I was quiet before. Am I louder now? 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3.
You should all be about the same volume. That's kind of how I felt about
in a way that me and Pi weren't shutting up about Enter the Gungeon.
Oh, well.
Probably. I'm just asking about the Enter the Gungeon. I was wondering about this in between the runs thingy. Do you actually level up and you gain some perks, or do you save some items, or how does it work?
No, not really. It's like so from what I have right now unlocked, that is, again, there is more to that. And so far I have unlocked like a shop where you can pretty much buy items with like shards or whatever they are that bosses drop, and you can unlock those items, and then they will appear in the dungeon as random drops. Otherwise they wouldn't appear at all. That's kind of like this at least from this specific shop. But there will be more. There's like another guy that said he can, unlock shortcuts through the levels. But I haven't really gotten so far that he can actually do that.
Super
But
cool.
yeah, there is at least these things. But you can't really, not really save stuff between levels, but just add more content to the game the more you play, pretty much. So there's like end game guns, pretty much, where you need to play like probably many rounds and put a lot of money into that, so you can even unlock these kinds of guns for later runs.
That kind
It's
of
pretty cool.
reminds me of the unlock system of Risk of Rain,
Yeah.
where you basically have where you have to play the game and unlock achievements that unlock items in the game,
Yeah.
which makes it kind of fun, I think.
I don't really have that much to compare to that, to be quite honest. But yeah, I mean, it's also a little bit like a Tower of Guns, where you have to, do some certain challenges or kill so many enemies of that specific type, and then you will unlock a new perk for something like that. But yeah, it does feel rewarding unlocking new stuff, and I think found a few new guns as well, and some really overpowered ones, which I had so much fun with.
That's always good.
And then I died to a boss.
Aww.
At least
Totally
you died to a
understanding.
boss and not to a minion. But, Enter the Gungeon's got something somewhat in common with Risk of Rain for the fact that it does have multiplayer. It only has local couch multiplayer, though. It
Yeah.
doesn't have online multiplayer. Have you had a chance to try that out at all?
No, unfortunately not. No, I was actually offering because before yesterday evening, before I could have a chance to try this game, I didn't actually know if it was just local, but if it was online, I would have actually invited somebody from the chat, preferably the Gross, because he asked me and got me to this idea. Just opening for the last half hour, opening the co-op, having him jump in and just play a round or two. But yeah, since it's just local, I couldn't do that and couldn't try it out, unfortunately.
Yeah. It's a bit sad that they don't have online co-op. I don't remember if this game had an early access period or not. I do know that online multiplayer is always a little bit expensive, but it's something that I would love to see it in the future. That would be kind of cool.
Yeah.
I've heard it's all right. I can't comment on it, of course, because I can't get the freaking game to run. I do have to say this. I submitted a bug report 2 days ago. Yesterday, I got an email back from Dodgero Games saying that the bug report was useful and that they were sending out a patch. And today, the patch came out. So
Yeah.
I don't know if my bug report caused the patch to come out, if they were already making the patch. But I feel like they updated the game because of me.
You're the real hero.
I'm helpful here, people. I'm helping you.
I mean, and it's kind of cool that they are really responsive, and I was of course also reading like a few, especially since you mentioned your crash report, I was googling a little bit, and I was actually finding a few of those reports in the Steam forums, and the developer is like really responsive and really tries to get these troubles sorted out.
Good.
And I definitely, it would be better if there would be no problems at all, but they're really dedicated to get this up and running and make it run flawlessly. But, since I didn't have any sort of issues so far, and I can't say that I encountered any sort of in-game bugs or glitches or something like that, it really runs pretty flawless for me.
Yeah, this is a published by Devolver game. So far, I've yet to see a game published by Devolver that is absolutely crap. I mean, I wasn't a big fan of Not a Hero, Not a Hero didn't even freaking have windowed mode. I don't know why. I put it in windowed mode. I mean, everything was really freaking tiny in windowed mode, but I mean, come on. But still, Devolver, off the top of my head, I cannot think of a bad game by Devolver so far, and Enter the Gungeon seems like just another feather in their cap.
Developers seem to be like this kind of a dream for young indie developers, nowadays. Because there's one game that is not on GOG, unfortunately, but it's a really cool game. Downwell. It's a really cool game. And I've met the developer of this game, Ojiro, and he's this great guy. We were in Belgium together on the festival, and we were sleeping in the same hostel. So we came home after getting drunk together. And And he was a great guy, and he actually told me this. I mean, he told us the story about how he actually released his game, and he was, which is pretty interesting. I think he was a freaking opera singer for like all of his life. He was like learning to become an opera singer because he had a great opera voice, and then he decided it sucks so much that he wants to make games because that seems more fun. So he made this challenge, one game a month, and he basically started to make a lot of stuff in there. And he started with download. Actually, I mean, the download was his 13th game, I believe. But after he did that, he posted that on Twitter. He believed that this is actually the first game he can share with the world, because the before games he just shared with his friends. So then he shared it through the Twitter, and Devolver replied to his tweet. They were saying from the Devolver digital account, hey, what is this game about? It looks very interesting. And he was like, you know, Devolver digital just replied to my freaking tweet. And yeah, 3 tweets away, they were signing a contract. And,
Wow.
And he's able to like live for a year now, just living off the money from the game and making it the second game. So it's great.
You know, he'll
by the way-
live for longer off the money from the game if he puts it on GOG.com, so he can get more
Exactly.
sales out of it, huh?
The thing is,
Exactly.
you know, since we talked about Downwell, I would like to say that I'm actually gonna stream Downwell on Monday on my channel. I'm gonna do that. Yes. Yep.
Selfish plugging.
Just
How
want
dare
to
you.
say, if people are interested
We're
in
only
Downwell,
17 minutes in. I didn't even get the chance to plug anything yet.
You need to work in that pie.
All right.
twitter.com/megapieman.phd.
I think it's.
twitch.tv/megapieman.
I think it's time we move on to
Yes.
our next topic here. All right, so the next game that's on the list, I'm trying to pick the games here off the top that I know people have played. And the next game on the list that I know that I think Outstar streamed it is Wilson Lords of Mayhem by Wilson Studio. It looks like a CRPG.
Actually, yeah, I didn't stream it, but I played it. The thing is, I was supposed to stream it. The problem was I couldn't because the medium settings were dropping my frames up to 20, down to 20 when I was in fights, when I had my OBS running. Well, the game was working fine without the streaming software behind it. When I was just, killing all my processes in the background and just playing the game on the medium settings. But unfortunately, my PC is not the newest one. On the other hand, the game is still before the optimization, very difficult English words. Anyway, the game is based on the CryEngine, and CryEngine is known for trying to fight
Melt
with
your
the
PC?
Unreal Engine 4. What, Crux?
Trying to melt your PC?
Oh,
Kinda,
it
but
does that
it's
too.
It's also known for trying to fight with Unreal Engine 4 in terms of what engine is the most beautiful and what can cause the best freaking lighting effects, ambient occlusion, freaking global illumination, anything. They're just trying to be the most beautiful things that you can actually get from the modern PCs, and that's sometimes kind of problematic, especially when it comes to optimization. And Volson, I heard from GOG guys today that it's actually pronounced Volson, seems like a very great and beautiful game so far, but it's still the GID, so the game in development, so like a GOG version of early access. It seems like it will be a very interesting game, so it's worth grabbing. The problem is, as for now, I guess if you don't have a modern PC, which was like upgraded in the last year or two, I believe you will maybe just get some frame drops in there. Maybe on the Intel cards it will be a little bit better, and on Nvidia's. But I believe this game looks super interesting. It is really beautiful. You just check out the screenshot or videos because they just look absolutely great.
Yeah, screenshots look great.
As for now, it doesn't have the character creation. You can only play the default male character without any like special features. There is a character creation screen ready with all the like facial features to change and stuff, but those bars are right now blank, so you can't click and you can't change anything. So in the end game, you will be able in the final game you'll be able to play either female or male and just customize your character as much as you want in RPGs. So I guess it will be cool. And I was able to check out the battle system. It was pretty funny because there was no cooldown on the spell I got. I got the first spell, which was the lightning, and there was just an absolute no cooldown. I was just walking in the freaking swarm of skeletons and spamming my wand like crazy. It was like pew 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 pew. But I lost my mana very quickly this way. But I wonder if this will be actually in the game, that some spells will have no cooldown, but they will actually drain your mana so super fast. So you would actually have to. It's new for me, like a player of like a lot of RPGs or MOBAs or MMORPGs. You always have this cooldown that is kind of preventing you from wasting mana a lot, because you know that you can only cast some spells and you have this a little bit of wait time between them. As for Volts and Rise Now, I had the spell without the cooldown, which was making me like just everyone. Which was fun. And as for now, the battle system looks great. The effects looks great when the freaking lightning splashes over the skeletons. Really cool game. Looks really good so far. But unfortunately, I couldn't play it on stream. But as far as I know, Retrograde Tom will try to do so because he has a kind of better PC than I do. So you can expect him to try, and we'll see. So that's all.
I find it interesting that a game being a CRPG has issues when it comes to optimization. I mean, I understand it's a game in development, but when I think of a CRPG or an isometric game, I usually don't really think of having a bad frame rate. Then again, I haven't played much in the way of CRPGs, so who am I to tell? It just seems odd. Then again, it is CryEngine, and CryEngine's CryEngine.
Mm-hmm.
So there's that.
The engine probably brings, no matter how you make the game look, but the base requirements of that engine are probably ultra high anyway. So they probably said, like, the hell with it and just made it as beautiful as possible.
Well, it depends, For example, I'm playing the Paragon right now, so I'm thinking about the Unreal Engine 4. And Unreal Engine 4 is like a super beautiful engine, but you can set up a lot of things in that engine to make it applicable for worse PCs, right? So, for example, the LOD, you basically make the smaller sizes for the textures for people that can't load the high quality ones. And they did that in Volson, but as for now, the game just looks really bad in the low quality, or maybe it is supposed to look very bad in the low quality because you can't really, demand from the game developers that they need to make their game super beautiful on the low. The problem is the textures are really, really tiny, so you have those very big smooth fields of no like bump maps, nothing.
But
And
maybe but maybe that's something that is still like this whole in development. I mean, because they probably need to generate all these textures, all the bump maps and light maps that go along with all these different kinds of texture resolutions. So maybe that's something that will still come in later versions of the game and will be also a little bit better optimized. So yeah, who knows?
I can assure you that optimization is one of the last things done in game development. I have seen this from my own experience. It is just horrible in development at times, and then gets heavily optimized normally.
But it makes sense because first you want to build all the areas and whatnot and populate them with enemies, and so you take like the biggest battle in the most crowded area and whatnot, in the biggest area, and then you take that as the bottleneck and optimize on that. So basically they probably make the content first and then start optimizing it. Because otherwise, it may just be a waste of time to optimize for a game that you don't know how big it's going to be in the end.
Exactly.
Well, from the experience that, I've never made a game, but I work on maps in the Source engine, and I pretty much always leave optimization to be the last thing I do before I put a map out, mainly because optimization is tedious and boring and sometimes a pain in the butt. So it's like, you do that part last. And then you also get to the point that you spend all of your time optimizing something, and then you cut it and redo it. So all that time you spend optimizing it is worthless. So
basically, in development of a big game, optimization has to go in between of all the stuff. So you gotta work on the stuff so that it doesn't work and optimize, because when a lot of studios don't do that and they actually put it on the last thing, and then we have all those situations like, hey, there's a game on E3 and it looks wonderful, and then it comes out a year later and it looks way worse, and there's an internet screaming downgrade. Anyway, I hope they
Watch
won't
Dogs.
downgrade.
Ubisoft.
Yeah, I hope they won't destroy Volsen and downgrade it that much. But yeah, there's a lot of stuff to do in this game. But what I want to point out is that this is a game to keep an eye on. It looks interesting, and I believe it could be a very interesting CRPG. I know
Is it a CRPG or an ARPG? Somebody in chat was saying it's an ARPG.
It is ARPG. It is more like a Diablo than like a Baldur's Gate.
All right.
Sure. So it is an ARPG. Yeah.
Gotta get your genres right.
I know, man. I know.
People going to be putting all this comments on the YouTube video. He said CRPG! It's an ARPG! Oh no! The world! It's ending!
I gotta sign up to YouTube for doing that.
Thanks, Crocs.
Internet won't forgive you, Mega Pieman. Ever.
It's on here forever. Once it's on the internet, it's on the internet forever. Alright, moving on. Speaking about things that are on the internet forever, this has nothing to do with that. We're going to be talking about Revolution 1979 Black Friday.
I am so interested. I want to hear from you all, Mega Pieman PhD.
Yes, because I am the one who ended up streaming it. So, Revolution 1979 Black Friday is a Telltale-style adventure game. I'm going to say Telltale-style because even though they may not have created that style of adventure game, they popularized it. But it's that style of an adventure game, but it is about the Iranian Revolution in the 1980s, the early 1980s. So, I don't know crap about Iran or much of the Middle East. I really don't know much about any of that kind of stuff. So it was interesting. Thank you for that. It was interesting to get into the game and start learning about a lot of this stuff, because the game kind of goes out of its way to kind of tell you what things are. So even if you don't know, like, if they mention something, you can look it up in a journal. Like, apparently tea is a huge thing in Iran. I didn't know that. One of the first things you can do in the game is refuse tea, which is apparently a huge no-no over there. And I was able to look up earlier and read a bit of a spiel about it and find out that, yeah, I may not have wanted to do that. But so far, the story's kind of interesting. I mean, it's based off of real events. I don't think it's really based off of that many real people. I do find it kind of, I might get some flack for this, but I find it kind of funny that it's a Telltale-style adventure game, and there's a character in the game called The Walking Dead. Now, the character himself is not that funny, because he's a walking memorial of people who've been shot by the government, covered in pictures of them, so that's not funny! But I think it's funny that he's called The Walking Dead, and they're kind of aping the Telltale style of game. So, I'm a horrible person, is what I'm saying. But yeah, it's interesting. Episode 1 is out right now. There might be 5 episodes. I've heard people say episode 1's 2 hours long. I died twice, so you can lose. It's yeah. Anybody else?
I'm actually pretty interested in the game. From what I've seen so far, it actually looks very, very interesting. But I'm gonna wait until at least the 5th episode has a definite release date. Because in episodic games, it's kind of like my philosophy.
Somebody just asked if your actions actually matter. So from playing episode 1, here's the kind of things that I got out of it. You can either be cooperative and be for the revolution. Well, you're kind of always for the revolution. You can either be for the violent revolution, you can be for the peaceful revolution, or you can just try to stay out of it, which seems to be your 3 options. In it only being episode 1, I can't say how much it will affect the game by the end. A lot of the times, episode 1 for games like this end up being much more interesting than the entire thing, because you find out at the end the same kind of crap happens no matter what happens. But that seems to be, from what I got from the game, those seem to be your 3 main paths. Either being for the violent revolution, where the the ends justify the means for the peaceful revolution, or just trying not to be involved. Most of the game takes place in the flashback, or at least episode 1, so you're involved nonetheless. I guess it just depends upon how much involved you are in the entire thing.
It's actually interesting because Pyrofox in chat just asked, are we sure this game is episodic? I thought people were saying there was no mention of that in the game page.
It's episodic. I could only play episode 1.
But the problem with GOG people and the community is actually that a lot of people are asking if the game is, like if you buy this 79 version Black Friday, do you get actually the next episodes? And I'm searching for an answer very quickly right now, but I'm personally not sure. I think you do, actually. That would go with the whole idea. So try to check it out on the forums, but... Pieman, I was actually wondering, because I watched your stream, and I remember that you went for YOLO on that first conversation. You said no to everything. So I wonder if you actually, did you replay that, and did you actually were more cooperative later, and did you see that something really changed?
I have not had the chance to go back to it. For the most part, I was saying no, because I wanted to see how much I could say no before I died. You will die. You will actually lose, and it's kind of annoying when you lose in one of those games, because then you have to sit through like the cinematic that you already watched. But there is one section where there's a crowd is stampeding, and you have the quick time events, and I specifically did not do any of the quick time events, and it seemed like I could actually get pretty far before you actually just die. So it was kind of funny seeing the guy run down the street tripping over literally everything in his way. It's a funny thing happening. It's not a funny situation, because it's a stampede of people who are running away from other people shooting and guns in the air. That's not like before. It's hard to make jokes about this game, because the game is so serious. It's a very serious topic. It's not like super serious in your face all the time, I don't believe, but they definitely try to make you feel that this is like a serious take on this thing that happened. Like, it actually happened. It didn't happen that way, but it happened.
It has a lot of uproar out there in the web, so which is very much political, because apparently some people are saying that the game is showing one side of the story, while there are people who are, for example, fans of the government that was back in the days, and they are saying the other stuff. So I think it's a risky thing to make a game like that. But I'm happy about people taking risks. I'm always happy about devs doing stuff like that. Yeah. So especially when they're trying to show the history, either from one of the sides. It's very interesting, because I have actually read an article one day about the games that are released in the Middle East, and games that are being released in the Iran, Afghanistan, in Iraq. And there are actually studios with games in there, and there are a lot of very radical Muslim games that are released in there. And I don't exactly remember the studios, but those are the games that are circulating basically in that areas only. They're rarely even coming up to the West, but those low quality shooters when you are the Mujahideen and you can kill other people. So they are actually game studios which are making that there. So I think it's very fresh, and it's very interesting to see games that are set in these kinds of land, and they're not showing some kind of American heroes going there or Mujahideens killing people on the other side. They are just showing the history and what actually happened, because not a lot of people know that. I'm sorry about the American joke, because I personally have no idea about that either. So I believe it's really interesting, and I'm looking forward to play the game myself.
From what I played of it, it didn't feel like they were trying to push any specific agendas with the game. You were saying that some people have said that the game is only showing one side or anything, but I didn't really feel like they were pushing they kind of give you like I said before, you have the idea of the revolution's going to happen because the revolution happened. You can't stop the revolution. It's just, are you going to be part of it? And if you're part of it, are you going to be for the violent side, or are you going to be for the peaceful side, is what it seems to feel like. It doesn't seem to be like they're saying one's necessarily better than the other. I mean, the guy from the violent side, he's kind of a jerk, but if I want to make different decisions, maybe he would have acted differently. I can't say that because I didn't make those as of yet, but it doesn't really feel like, at least from what I played of it so far, that it's necessarily saying, this is the right thing, this is the wrong thing. And I kind of like that.
Sure. It's actually, there are some people, they are trying to boycott that game in the reviews because they're saying the other side. Which is making me actually remind myself of the situation that we have right now on our national game development field with a Polish game called Soviet City, I believe it is. It's a city builder, which is set in a Soviet city.
I saw that. That looked interesting.
Yeah, and the problem is the game was really mashed by the Russian community as racist, as not actually racist if you consider Russian a race, of course, but as anti-Soviet, as anti-Russian, because it's showing the Russian people in a very bad perspective, right? It's made by like a Polish developer who is making a game called Soviet City, and is making that there's a lot of oppression mechanics in the game and stuff like that. So people are really boycotting the game a lot on Steam right now, and there's a big uproar, and no one knows what. Actually, the uproar started before the game was released, so no one really know what is in the game. And the developer.
How do you start doing that when you don't even know what's in the game yet? From what I've read about it's kind of like. From what I've heard about it, it reminds me of sort of like the Tropico idea, because in Tropico you are a dictator of an island country. They don't put a name on it. They don't say it's Cuba. I mean, it's Cuba. Yeah. It's not Cuba. Yeah. That's basically what it is. You're a dictator of not Cuba.
Everyone knows that.
Everyone knows it's Cuba, but they don't call it Cuba. If the game was called something besides Soviet City, if instead of Soviet they said some other word in there, nobody would probably give a crap.
Yeah.
But how is the Russian province Poland even allowed to make such a game?
Well, what can I say? After I played Panzer Models, the game taught me a lot about my country, and it taught me a lot about how my country is useless and shouldn't be even the country.
That's the tank dating sim, isn't it?
Yeah.
Oh,
I still have to highlight that.
You know, it's ridiculous that there's a tank dating sim, but then again, I'm talking to two people who are currently working on a game where you date refrigerators. So, I know Crocs is the sane one here.
You know, we've been here for too long. We're beyond salvation.
You people are nuts. You've been on the internet for far too long.
Yeah. You know, but since we are at the game development topic, actually, Matt has asked a question, and I don't want to hold it for too long since we're moving away from the topic anyway. And
I was going to save that for Q&A because I don't have any Q&A questions right now. But if you want to cover it right now, we can do that.
Well, no, he asked about this game. What was the name? This RPG. You know, with the performance.
Volson.
Volson.
Okay, yeah, and I have a question for the team back to the topic of optimization. What do you guys think is the line you have to draw between this runs well and this runs not so good but looks great, like Crysis, for example? What do you think?
I would rather have it play good than run. I mean, I'd rather have it play good than look good, you know?
Take a CPU and take a PC that was made 5 years ago. Yeah. And go for a high settings, and if it drops below 20 frames, then you're doing something wrong. I believe that you shouldn't make games for the the development process can go for long, right? So during the development of the game, if it's an AAA game, the new PCs can come and people can actually upgrade their equipment, right? But I believe that when you are making a game like that, you should consider like testing it on the at least 5 years old PCs and see if that doesn't drop that much.
Well, it depends. It depends on the kind of game. I'm not somebody who necessarily is like everything has to be at 60 FPS, but I do feel that you need your game to hit the frame rate. I mean, your game has to work at the frame rate. If you're making a game in 30 FPS, then you need to make a game that works in 30 FPS. I heard some people complaining about Hyper Light Drifter running in 30 FPS because that game being as difficult as it is and as action-oriented as it is, it would be better in 60 so that you would be able to have more precision on your movements and that kind of stuff. Yeah. When I was playing Hyper Light Drifter, I wasn't necessarily a big fan of the game. Maybe if I played it in 60, I would have liked it more. I don't know. But I definitely feel like if you're making a game that's supposed to be fast, put it in 60. Yeah. If it doesn't have to be fast, then it doesn't necessarily matter.
I would
Then
compare
again,
to, yeah.
again, I would also, the thing is, what do you consider this runs well? Like, if we say like this 5-year-old PC, I would actually say like, okay, we're gonna optimize it that it runs like at 30 FPS there, not at 60 probably. That would be like my personal interpretation of being a playable game. But there are people that say like 60 FPS or more, or I don't buy the game at all. You see, that's like with the optimization. I would say playable is 30 FPS, and if it's a consistent 30 FPS, I think it's very playable. But yeah, it's like always what the users expect, and I think in the end it all comes down to you can optimize everything. In the end, it's just a question of time and money.
Exactly. I wanna compare, and I wanna ask Marketplace what the hell is with The Witcher 3, because I did have back in the days when Witcher 3 was released. My PC was 4 years old back then, and it ran very well on the high settings, and I could stream that. But anyway, the question about the downgrade and optimization, I actually want to compare two examples about that, because both Witcher 3 and how's the game called? The game about like GTA, but you're a hacker.
Watch
You're a
Dogs?
hacker going
Watch
through streets.
Dogs.
Watch Dogs.
Watch Dogs.
Watch Dogs, yeah.
Watch Dogs. I'm happy I forgot the name of the game because it's not worth remembering. So Watch Dogs and Witcher 3, you had both of those games which had beautiful tech demos in the first festivals, or in the first like when the gameplay was shown at first, it was absolutely beautiful, gorgeous. Like no scratch, no little like texture that was like repeated or anything. So it was great. And then both of those games, Kiri, please share them. Both of those games were downgraded, and they were. Yeah. I mean, it's not a big secret, right? Because Witcher 3 also was a little bit downgraded for sure. We could see that. All the gamers could see that. But I believe it was in the sake for playability, so people on the older machines could actually play it. It still looked perfect. The game, although it was downgraded, it looked really great. And in comparison to the other games that went out the same year, it was one of the most beautiful games. So there was not a problem, especially with the open world. There was not a big problem with how the graphics looked. Everyone said anonymously that the game looks awesome. Watch Dogs, Jesus Christ! Like,
well, I'll say this. I'll say this about Watch Dogs. I played Watch Dogs on both my PC and PS3, and I didn't like it either way. I played Wolfenstein: The New Order on both PS3 and PC. I did like the PC version better, but I didn't have that much of a problem. I mean, the PS3 version was obviously uglier, but the PC version, I just liked it better because I didn't have to use a controller, and it's hard to play a freaking first-person shooter with a controller when you haven't done that in a while. So, I mean, I grew up with consoles, so I didn't really know there was a huge frame rate thing until a couple years ago when I started doing more stuff on the PC. So, for me, as long as it plays well on the FPS it has, I don't care. I mean, if it's going to look like crap, then as long as it plays well, it's fine. I mean, I play old games that look like crap nowadays. Doom doesn't look that great. I still like Doom. Doom still plays well. I don't care how it looks.
I just want to drop in there for a second. I've played more than enough games at even below 30 FPS.
Yeah.
And I can say that this, isn't really a matter if it's consistent. I mean, there's that thing, there's frames per second, then there's frame time, which is a thing people tend to forget, I say. And if you indeed manage to get a consistent frame rate, this actually makes up for a much smoother experience than a game jumping between 30 and 60, for example.
And of course, now with the with flat screens and whatnot, that you should have like a frame rate that kind of is in sync with your monitor. Like if you have a 60 hertz monitor, that you have like 60 or 30 FPS or something like that, instead of like 43, which will just look bad on your monitor. But of course, there's always like input lag, which you have, the lower the FPS go, the less inputs are read per second, and between each input you have a little bit of a delay, which is actually a best example for that is when I tried to capture Blood Rain on my Windows 7 machine. It was actually slowing down the game to 10 FPS, but the game was actually skipping input. I pushed the attack button, and sometimes nothing would ever happen to the game. Because it was just badly optimized in that way. So there's also the question of input, how well that is handled from the game. But I agree, if the FPS are consistent, then it's actually, I think that Dizzy mentioned that sometimes on his side he actually prefers to play Witcher 3 with all settings on, and then tells the game to make it consistent 30 FPS, because that's better than having it jump between 30 and 40 and whatnot. And I agree to that.
I guess I should clarify to chat, because they brought this up. When I said Doom, I meant original Doom, not 2016 Doom. Although I did get the chance to play the Doom multiplayer beta over the weekend, and I'm going to hold off on moving on to that conversation until we're done going over all the releases, because we got a few more releases to go for. I want to talk about it, but I gotta wait. And unfortunately, Fleos was the only one else who played that.
I want to say one more thing to chat, because there's like human eye can't see more than what not, and not. I didn't say that 30 FPS is enough for everybody. I just say that even if you have to live with a low FPS setting, if it's consistent, it's way better than if the FPS are jumping around. That's all I want to say.
I agree with you, 8-bit, and so let me trigger all the people in the chat who are like, 60 FPS, man! Sorry. It's okay. It's okay.
When are they rebooting Hexen? I hope sometime soon, either Hexen or Heretic. I need the new ones. I need the old ones on GOG first, and then make some new ones.
Heretic would be amazing.
Heretic is great!
Just like they did with Descent, with Overload now, do the same thing to Heretic, and I throw my money at the screen.
I know, it's like you've got the new Shadow Warrior, which is good. You've got the new freaking System Shock. If you can bring System Shock back, bring back freaking Heretic. Come on.
Yeah.
Okay, moving on to games that are actually on GOG.com. We're going to talk next about a game called Jotun, if I pronounced that correctly. I've heard it pronounced as Jotun, or Jotun, even though it's spelled Jotun. Outstar seems very happy about this game. I played a little bit of this game today. First time I really dived into it, and I hate it, but I also really like it.
Why do you hate it?
I hate it. I really enjoy the game, but I hate it in the moments of playing it when I'm like, because it's mostly going against bosses, and when the boss kills me, and I think that shouldn't have hit. That was the wrong hitbox. That's why I hate it. But I like
Dark Souls, I guess.
I've never played Dark Souls. I've heard that Jotun is like Titan Souls, except Titan Souls, people die in one hit, whereas in Jotun, they do not. They do not.
I am a little bit biased. I'm a little bit subjective about this topic, so not everyone should take my word as granted, as it is kind of my style of game. I just really like Titan Souls. I like Souls games, and I like games that are challenging you, even unfairly. I like those kind of games, especially with this kind of like you sit with your controller, just like in Dark Souls. I fell in love with that game last year. I fell in absolute love in Dark Souls the first time I played it. You just sit with your controller, and you don't even bother. To be very honest, I say that as a keyboard and mouse master race. I've played keyboard and mouse for most of my life, and I was so salty every time I heard the game is not supporting the keyboard and mouse right. But you have to drop that when you're playing games like Dark Souls, and then Titan Souls, and then Jotun. You have to drop that thinking. You gotta.
I played Jotun with keyboard and mouse.
It's not, no.
Yeah!
This is why you died so much.
WASD to move around, space bar is the dodge button, and you use the mouse to click to do attacks.
I mean, it's
not that bad.
I mean, we are here on the PC. We can use any input device we want, and we should use the input device that is the best for the game.
The best input device for a game is the keyboard and mouse, because your computer comes with it, and everything else you got to pay money for. If your game doesn't work with a keyboard and a mouse, then you're doing it wrong. Don't put it on PC.
I'm the person, I'm like a sect member that was enlightened a year ago, okay? So for the whole life, I was a normal atheist human being who believed in a keyboard and mouse. But last year, I joined the sect of controller players, and I do believe that they are useful, and you should use them for some games.
Every time you need like this and I hate to use that word, but analog input. You know, if you want to control a plane and like keep the nose, I made that in Kerbal Space Program. Like when I streamed Kerbal Space Program, I used my flight stick, and now when I played it just by myself, I used the keyboard, and I was like, okay, let's tip the nose up of the plane just a little bit. I was like keyboard because you can't, you know, make this small movement. You either press a key or you don't, but you can't say I'm pressing the key like just 10% down. That doesn't work.
I get you.
And for all the keys where all the actions where you need like, you know, fine-tuned controlling, then you know, having a you know, analog stick or joystick, flight stick, whatever, is actually, you know, at least something you should consider, depending on how much emphasis the game puts
I'm
on
not
it.
saying controllers are bad. I'm just saying if you're going to release your game on PC, you need to make an effort that it will work decently with a keyboard and mouse. I mean, I played Wings of Prey. I streamed that with a keyboard. I didn't do it well, but I streamed it with a keyboard and mouse, and it went okay. It's just
actually, I believe it is like for example, because Uncle Elias in the chat is saying right now that he believes if devs want their game to be a controller game, keep it on the console. I do believe that this is applicable when the game is allowing to do a fluent gameplay with both with the mouse and the keyboard and controller. For example, the games that I believe could work, the developers could work a little bit better on the keyboard support would be the Never Alone and Torin. Both of the games are on GOG. Both of the games are really interesting, really beautiful, and they're showing very cool foreign cultures that are not very much shown in games. But I do believe that those games, they suggest you, they tell you at the very first site in the menu that, hey, please use the controller because it's more applicable to the game. Although you could use a keyboard and mouse as well. With the Souls-like games, I believe that, just because I'm a Souls fan, I believe that you should play those games with a controller, and that's just applicable. But anyway, going back to the subject, because I think it is not like a. I mean, I was a person before that was like just such a freaking keyboard and mouse fan. I couldn't even stand seeing that the game on the PC doesn't have a keyboard and mouse support, or it does not work well. So I don't think we can actually
you're
find
converting.
Exactly, I'm converting. Yeah. So
either way, Jotun played fine with keyboard and mouse. It's a beautiful looking game. I believe it uses some rotoscoping in it for some of the movement of the characters. But the game, I played the game, my first impressions with it was when it first came into early access. And I played like 10 minutes of it and I hated it because I couldn't figure out what to do and I never touched it until today. And I was very much impressed with it. It's a good-looking game. It's mostly nothing but boss fights. There's very little to do besides boss fights. I mean, you can explore. Generally, there's nothing to do there. I don't know how far Outstar got. I got to the big boss with the shield and just all the dwarves. Just millions of dwarves. Hundreds of thousands of... I have never seen more dwarves in my life in a video game or anything.
Fight. I love it. Yeah.
But
dwarves are awesome.
It's great. Because the level before that, you're walking around, you're like, there's a dwarf, you go near him, he runs away, you see one, and then you see like 2 at a time, and then you see like 5 at a time, and then they start attacking you, and you see 10, and you see 20, and then you get to a point where you're fighting like 100 of them, and then you go to the boss, and the boss spawns dwarves. There's just dwarves everywhere. It's insane.
It's great. You feel so powerful, actually. I mean, this game is showing you like one dwarf is nothing in comparison to you. You can kill 40 dwarves in one hammer blow.
Right, because all the dwarves, even though there's big ones, they all die in one hit.
Yeah, and there is like this huge boss which is like so powerful, and he's even stronger than you. So he would kill like 200 dwarves in one hit.
Yeah, she would kill her own dwarves, and still the dwarves were a problem.
Exactly.
What I really like on Jotun is like really the world they create. It has something of Shadow of the Colossus, where like this world that feels like totally empty and a little bit surreal as well. And
It was
That's
the same
something I
with the
really...
Titan Souls. It was
Yeah.
like actually the reason why I love Titan Souls and I love even more Jotun is Titan Souls was criticized a lot by a lot of people, and I wouldn't suggest it to people who are not very much into the gameplay, which is based on bosses, very unfair bosses, by the way. There are a lot of people complaining on the fighting mode in the Titan Souls, where you just have a small arrow and you have to, and the arrow is not coming back to you automatically, so you send it out and you have to aim it with a controller, which is really, really hard. And then when it's coming back to you, when you actually are, pushing it back, you can't move in that time, so anyone can kill you. But you can actually attack people with the arrow that is coming back to you. And this is the all of the game. There's nothing else. Okay, you can roll because you can roll in every Dark Souls game or Souls game. And this is all. And on the way to the bosses in Titan Souls, you have nothing. There is almost no story. I mean, there is kind of like a story. You can say that there's a very metaphoric story to the game, but it's just that. Nothing else. Just bosses. Bosses, and unfair battles and challenges. And Jotun actually adds more to that. You have this wonderful story about Norse mythology and about a Viking lady. I mean,
it's all
great,
in the Norse language too. They put subtitles, but everything they say is in Icelandic or something like that, which is crazy. I kept trying to catch how they pronounce Jotun in there, but I could never figure it. I could never catch it because it all just sounds like nonsense. Because I am an ignorant American, but it's really cool how they went that far into it, that they had a complete voiceover in Icelandic.
Yeah, that was absolutely great, and the story is awesome. I mean, it made me fall in love with the whole Norse mythology again. How she explains how the world is made of a huge corpse of a giant.
Yeah.
So the sky is his skull, the freaking seas are his eyes. There was a huge battle, and Odin killed a huge giant, and we are living on his corpse right now. It's a great story.
That's
now I finally know where the developers of the Elder Scrolls series were inspired from when they created, because it's kind of like the same with
Norse mythology
gods.
is insane when you actually get into it. And they actually show you that. Like there's one area that you go to that you go through, like the tree that's in the middle of the world, and there's in Norse mythology, it's not a tree, it's like roots or something that go through the middle of the world. And in Norse mythology, there is a specific like dragon thing that eats the roots, and that level they actually have that thing in the background with that. So they go for a lot of really cool detail. I do have a question for Outstar Walker. I didn't get super far into the game, but at the point that I got in the game, you only had like 2 attacks. You had a 2-hit combo that was kind of slow, and even slower over the head swing. And I had an ability, once I figured out how to use it, by pressing the F key, I could heal myself. But you only got 2 of those per area. Do you get more stuff to do with? Because some of the areas, before I figured out that I could heal myself, I kind of felt like I wasn't really equipped to deal with the bosses. Once I learned how to actually use the heal button, it was a bit better. But do you get anything else? Like, do you get any more attacks? Or I think you get more abilities. I didn't find any.
Yeah, in every area, because the game is pretty straightforward. You have those arrows that are leading you to areas, and every kind of like area has 2 areas you can go to, and they're like a puzzle areas, right? So you have to find the way to the unlock. Like this is the last runestone which you have to unlock, and then if you do that in the both areas, you go to the boss area, right? So those 2 areas before the boss area, because it's like a freaking cube. Every area is like a cube, right? So you have this boss area in there, and you have those 2 areas that are like the way through areas. And in those 2 areas, you can find such things as the fruit that is making your health bar bigger and longer. So it's in every area. You can find this fruit. It's actually pretty hard to unlock in most of them, because you have to find like this very, very like labyrinthic areas. Maybe even hit some kind of lever somewhere. So
I saw one, but I couldn't figure out how to get to it.
Yeah, so in every area you have that. In every area you have the big guy that is either giving you a new ability or more charges to your current ability. Or actually, I'm not really sure, because there could be 2 guys, and one of them is giving you a charge, and the second one is giving you a new ability itself. So as for now in the game, I was able to unlock the heal, of course, and the like a special freaking lightning hammer, which is making your damage bigger. It's like a buff for your damage for some time. And I was able to opt at both abilities to 3 charges per life, which was pretty useful. The problem is I missed some of the abilities before. Some people actually told me, lol, Asher is so OP, she doesn't need those abilities to kill the bosses. So I missed the abilities in the previous areas. I went straight to the next area. But with those games, it's exactly like with Souls. You can you can make the whole game with one freaking dagger. If you are quick enough, if your reflexes are right, if you know the boss's patterns, you're able to kill all the bosses without those abilities, even
or
without the
if you
heal.
just can't find the other stuff and like, you know what, fine, I'm just going to not look for it anymore and go to after it. Like,
Yeah,
I don't
sure.
know that's there. Because I'm sure I passed a
Dependable.
couple of them because I didn't unlock any
The more
of
you
those.
explain about this, the more this game really has a lot of parallels to Shadow of the Colossus.
It kind
You know,
of
with the
is.
abilities, with expanding your life bar and whatnot. It's very similar to Shadow of the Colossus.
All
now
of the
that you
enemies
settled
are
that.
very unique to all the bosses. The first boss you come across is like this little zombie guy that starts walking out of a cave, and then you do a little bit of damage to him, and he gets bigger. And you do a little bit of damage to him, and he gets bigger. And the more damage you do to him, the larger and larger he gets. And it took me a little while to actually realize that he's getting larger until he was already huge. I loved that effect on that guy. And the second boss I fought was like this like big tree lady with like vines going everywhere and murdering going everywhere, and she was, when you walk into the area, all you see is it's like a flower with an eye on it, and then you attack the flower and it goes crazy, and this giant lady comes out of the ground wanting to freaking smash you. It is awesome. The developers did a really good job with Jotun. I like it a lot. It's hard.
Boss fights are absolutely beautiful. Absolutely beautiful. There's later a boss fight that you will go to, which is a giant, very slim lady that is actually summoning lightnings around. And she's either, just going in one place like ha 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 and just spamming lightnings everywhere on the map, or she is just spamming very strong light ray at your direction, which is making a lot of damage if you actually get hit. The problem is she actually duplicates in the mid battle, so you have 2 of them, and you have to fight both of them at one time, which is great. I love those boss fights.
I think I'd rather fight the dwarves again.
No, the later battles are really hard. So you'll get to the Yeti, you'll get to them. They're very hard. So I love them. I absolutely love them. I have so much fun with them. It's just like with Dark Souls. I love the challenge. I love the fact that even the fact that for example, Titan Souls was a little bit clunky. Hey, Dark Souls is clunky too. And Dark Souls 1 was clunky, and no one can say that it wasn't clunky. It was. But it's great that you have this challenge, that you have this very slow, even if you have like lightest armor, your character is just so slow, and you gotta like roll and pray to the gods that no one will hit you. But it's great. I love it.
I do find it kind of cool that this sort of boss fights only thing is sort of I don't know if you call it its own genre, but it's definitely something that's coming more and more. I mean, you had Shadow Colossus that sort of, I don't know if they did it first, but they were one of the big ones that did it first. And then you had, I mean, Dark Souls was not bosses only, but Dark Souls was known for a lot for its bosses. And Titan Souls is bosses only. Jotun's bosses only. Coming up, whenever Cuphead releases, it's going to be bosses only. So
that's true.
It's interesting to see more people. It's I guess the idea is if you do bosses only, you can kind of have more interesting content instead of just more content.
But on the other side of this barricade, you have Hyper Light Drifter, which I also played in last week, and it's a wonderful game. I love it, absolutely love it. But it's something for people who didn't like Titan Souls, and they want actually more peeps on the way, but they like the graphics. So Hyper Light Drifter graphics are kind of similar, just a little bit more pink. And you have a lot of peeps on the way, and the little peeps are actually the ones that are making most of the trouble.
The little ones are tough, yeah. The normal fights on Hyper Light Drifter are really tough. I haven't come across any easy fights in that game.
Yeah, and I love this game too. It's like Dark Souls 2. Dark Souls 1 was you just go for the swarm of like peeps, which are hard to kill, but the bosses are the main danger in there. So the boss fights are just like I was sweating, I was just playing in there, and it was horrible, but I loved it. And Dark Souls 2 is like, bosses are just a relief. You can just breathe slower, you can just play some nice music and then kill them, and you are actually raging hard on the little peeps, which are super hard. I wonder yet how it is for Hyper Light Drifter, because I haven't encountered bosses yet. So I wonder if they're actually way harder than the regular peeps, because regular peeps are not
I got
the huge
to
stuff.
the first boss in my stream, but I didn't get the chance to fight him. I do have a question for the Crocs. Crocs, what do you think of Jotun?
I have seen this some time ago. Actually, I don't know. I think I saw a trailer or pre-release footage of that. I don't know where I seen it, but it seemed familiar. I just looked it up on GOG. I have to admit I never played it myself, but it seems interesting. And considering that, yeah, that I don't know. I'll just call it boss rush mode.
That's basically what it is.
Yeah, I don't know what else to call it. If you tell me that it's mostly just traveling from area to area and then fighting quite big bosses, then I don't know. For me, that's a boss rush mode.
Boss rush mode. That's something you really don't see anymore.
Yeah, it's got the spurs. No, anyway, but I've just looked at it, and judging from the art design, this looks kind of cool, actually. I got to take another look at that.
That definitely is kind of cool. All right, so the other thing to move on there is Mr. Bob Ross. What do you feel about Jotun? Thank you for your input, Mr. Ross. Moving on. He likes all the happy little trees. Although we did kill one with the giant tree lady, so I don't know. Moving on.
That's true.
I don't know how much any
But
of
it was
us...
just a little happy accident.
Oh, by the way, I hear Bob Ross just sent me a message via Skype, and he would like to know.
oh no.
Not a specific question, but what are the chances of getting the Space Quest series a playthrough on the GOG.com channel, sometimes by anyone? No, it's actually, I lied, it's not by Bob Ross. Tikajia in chat asked it, but I wanted to bring the question up before it's completely forgotten. And so, yeah, we'd like to know if there is somebody having any plans for the Space Quest series to have with that. Because, yeah, I think nobody has even streamed those games once so far.
Yeah.
Well, actually, I have spoken about this a while ago.
Yeah.
2 or 3 GOGcasts ago, I think. And I already I already thought about it, that I might actually do that.
Yeah.
After Prince of Persia.
There you go.
That's cool.
You guys have that to look forward to.
Were you interested in the older games or in the newer ones?
I will have to see what works for me. I'll have to try, but I'm gonna
because
be honest.
it's like it's like on my platter as well for a potential game of Space Knight.
Okay, maybe we can, I don't know, share that somehow.
Yeah, we will definitely talk about that, but you know, it's gonna happen one way or another.
We'll find a compromise.
Yeah.
Tikenjia, I will not forget that. The Crocs remembered.
The Crocs will remember that.
I want everyone to drink again on the chat, because people said that they will drink every time I say Dark Souls. I want to thank Worried Bear for Dark Souls 3 that just landed on my mailbox. Thank you, guys.
There you go.
Do it a few more times.
Dark Souls 3, not available on GOG.com.
Oh, wait a second.
Yet.
Pieman said that.
One day.
One day.
Yeah.
I want to get Vanquish on GOG.com.
That would be
if
amazing.
Vanquish was on GOG.com, that's a From Software game, isn't it?
No, that's from Platinum.
Really?
Yeah.
How the?
And as far as I know, there is no PC version of that game at all.
Okay, moving on. Speaking of space, Julia Among the Stars is now available on GOG.com. It looks like a exploration game. A first-person exploration game. I don't know anything about it. Any of you guys know anything about Julia Among the Stars?
You want to say a walking simulator?
No, I don't want to say walking
not
simulator.
This word. No.
If I wanted to say walking simulator, I would have said walking simulator, and not first-person narration game or exploration game.
It is kind of like a puzzle adventure game, as far as I know.
Yeah.
So it's not like just walking.
Yeah.
It looks somewhat like that Mind game that came out a little while ago.
Path to Thalamus.
Yeah.
The
Mine's
Dolly's
Path to Thalamus,
played.
It looks a little bit like
just
that.
said Julia is a mythlite.
Mythlite.
Myth,
That's actually a great
Mist-like?
name. Mythlite.
Mist-like. I like it.
Awesome.
A mist.
So, I just visited the game page, and comments are saying that it's a kind of point-and-click game
Yeah.
with, I don't know, enhanced control options, it seems.
I mean, it's also space, so I'm kind of like interested in that already.
Space Knight. You got a new game for Space Knight. There you go.
As far as I know, Vlad played this game actually.
Oh, he did? I need to
Yeah.
look up the VOD of that then and check it out.
I believe he played it on Saturday actually, but I was not there. I wasn't online then, so.
I'm gonna
I
check
couldn't
it out then. Man, the game is Julia is currently discounted. It's like 50% off, so you can't get it for $9.99. It's actually not that bad at all.
Yeah,
Just
so
saying,
unfortunately we can't say more about Julia because I think none of us played the game.
Yeah.
No,
But
unfortunately.
it seems very interesting. So if you want to know more about the game, make sure to hit up Mr. The Weekend Slice, Vlad, who will for sure share more. And we can move on.
Moving on. Industry Giant 2 is now
that's a
available
new
on GOG.com. It looks like a management game, maybe a city builder, but probably only like industry parts of a city builder. I've never played an Industry Giant game. Does anybody know anything about Industry Giant 2?
I'm sorry, I don't. But the
I played
interface reminds me of
Lost Place.
SimCity.
It does have a
Yeah.
very SimCity look to it, at the very least.
It looks absolutely great, and I'd love to get into that. The problem is with the streams of the city simulators, you gotta actually try them out a little bit after the release to make sure that you won't screw up at first. Because I do believe that with the city sims, it's one of the hardest games to stream at the release date, and this is why we don't have like the release date stream. But it looks really interesting, so I will make sure to look into it myself.
All right, coming up next is Deponia 4, also known as Deponia Doomsday. This is, as it says, the fourth game in the Deponia point-and-click adventure series. I've never really played a Deponia game. I believe I played the demo for one of them. I'm not sure which one. All I know about it is that I really like the artwork, and the character design for the girl character in Deponia is very odd because she doesn't have a nose.
Doomsday. Okay, no. But
Crocs
now
can
for
say more,
serious.
but very quickly before Crocs will say more about Deponia. It's EA actually said something very cool about the Industry Giant, which is very specific taste. It's one of the 80s German spreadsheet management sims. A dream if you like micromanage supply lines. Dreadful if you're a top-down person.
Okay, I will not be playing Industry Giant 2 at any time in the near future.
It's like a game where I sit in front of a tutorial, if there even is a tutorial. Which
Most
I
likely
doubt.
not.
I was like, all the gameplay mechanics don't fit in my head at the same time. That's usually what happens with a lot of strategy games, and this looks even 10 times that.
Looks complicated.
Yeah. This is actually what I experienced with SimCity. Some time ago, I decided to reinstall one of those old SimCity games, and I booted it up, and yeah, DOSBox and such things. It worked. And then I had the game, and I had an interface, and I could not do anything. I could not even build things. I had no clue whatsoever of what to do.
Especially the very first SimCity has a real, like one of the most unintuitive interfaces that has ever been conceived.
I pressed on every button I found for 30 minutes. Didn't manage to build even a power plant that is required for everything.
Yeah.
And then I quit it again because
I
I
feel
didn't
your
know
crux.
how to play.
SimCity 2000 is.
I remember
like
playing
really
SimCity
accessible.
2000, yeah, when I was a kid, and then I loaded it up a couple months ago. I couldn't figure out how to do anything. It just you start a new game and it just puts you there. I didn't know how to do it. It's like I remember actually playing this game at some point in my life. Now I can't figure out how to do anything at all.
Yeah,
Yep,
it's
indeed.
like it has like a SimCity 2000 is actually a lot easier than the first one, but it kind of bases on the old Windows 3.1 interface where you have to, for top-down menus where you have to hold a button down, or sometimes press Shift or Alt when you don't, when you wouldn't in any interface nowadays, and that's like everything yeah, basically, if it would make more sense if you would still work with Windows 3.1, and then you probably know how to play this game inherently. Yeah.
I can now imagine all the people who love those games listening to us and just, shaking their heads in front of their monitors, thinking
Dude, they
about
wrote us off
peasant
a
race.
long time ago. All the people who like the in-depth strategy games, who like the in-depth CRPGs, the 4X strategy games that we never stream because nobody knows how to play any of them. We were written off a long time ago.
Can they even listen to? Can such people even listen to the podcast? Aren't they concerned about getting their 0.5% funding increase for the next quarter of 2011? I don't know. Seriously, no. It's really. I'm not saying these games are bad like at all. I would actually love to play more of these kind. I'm just saying it's too much for me. Give me Enter the Gungeon where I have like 2 or 3 buttons I need to remember, and even that can be very overwhelming for me sometimes. That's the problem.
I want to see 8-bit play XCOM Terror from the Deep and suffer badly, or play any other like old XCOM game.
You
play
played
it,
one of the
you know,
XCOM games this week.
I'm gonna since it's been teasing and since the question has been up, XCOM is actually on my list for Space Knight. One of the XCOM games.
Can't wait to see you trying to survive with your budget. Like, what the hell? I had $4 million. Why do I have only $5 now? It's incredible.
It's gonna happen. It's not gonna be pretty, I tell you.
And make all your troops Outstalkers so you can kill me multiple times. That would be wonderful.
I don't know. The new XCOM games look complicated. I can't imagine trying to play with the old XCOM games.
I love I was playing because I could, I think, talk about it for a second, about the UFO Enemy Unknown, which I would refuse to call XCOM UFO Defense because just Americans
UFO Defense. XCOM UFO Defense.
UFO Enemy Unknown, you filthy American.
I don't think so.
I just want to say that I played this game. I said it before. I don't know if it was on one of the GOGCast, or it was actually in my personal stream of XCOM, of the old XCOM, which was the thing that my brother tricked me very much when I was little, because I watched him playing this game and I loved it because I loved being scared when I was little. This is why I watched him playing all those scary games. And for me, the old XCOM is still pretty scary. It's a very creepy game. You are pretty much, left alone somewhere in a freaking crash site, and there are aliens who are usually very, very much more powerful than you are. And unless you are very strategic about it, very tactical, you can't really save yourself, and you will die horribly. And I was watching it, and there are 2 modes in the game. There's a geoscape. So in geoscape, Earth, and you can see if there are some UFOs appearing. You can watch the graphs, check out your base, I work on the funds, work on like every of those bureaucratic matters, and the battlescape where you send your warriors to the inevitable death. So when I was a kid, I thought those are 2 separate games, and my brother was, of course, naturally spending a lot of time in the geoscape because you have to wait for the UFO to appear. And I was just coming to his room, and I was like, "Oh, you're playing this Earth simulator again? Boring. Play the UFO game." And he was like, "Oh, I won't play the UFO game any time again," because he was trying to throw me to get me outside of the room because I was annoying. I was a younger sister, and he hated me. So I went out of the room. And then he was quickly going to the battlescape, and he was playing the UFO, and I wasn't doing anything. So yeah, I was tricked. I was tricked for many years, but then I realized it's the same game, and I started playing it myself, and I love it. I love it. That's all.
Cool.
People in chat.
Okay, actually, another question. I got another question from Tikangia here. It's a completely new question, completely unrelated to his last, according to himself. Is there any possibility of a police quest playthrough on GOG.com?
There was one. Somebody did one. Who did it?
I do not
Somebody did
know.
an actual series on it.
Somebody,
Wasn't it what
I think it was
Pat was
Flails,
Aaron?
wasn't it?
Yeah, I think Aaron did
Aaron.
It was him.
play
think
one
Aaron.
game of them.
I think he played Police Quest 4. Aaron,
Somebody
actually,
streamed
yeah.
Police Quest, I know that.
Yeah.
You know, I just have a random idea. We need to invite Tikanjia as a special guest sometime so we can finally make out if he's called Tikanjia or Tikanjia.
Yeah. Or
We need a-
Tikaniach in Polish.
Yeah, we need an audio confirmation on that. So
That's
we need
true.
to invite him.
This will be interesting.
Yeah.
We were talking about Deponia 4, guys. I want
We
to
were
hear
talking
about
about Deponia 4, and then somehow we got on to XCOM because we're talking about Doomsday.
Doomsday, indeed. Okay, so Deponia. Okay, so
Deponia.
basically,
Deponia.
for me, it's Deponia. I don't care about your pronunciation of that. Anyway,
Deponia, UFO defense.
I have never played the first 3 games myself, but I have actually watched videos of that. But in other news, I will get my hands on Deponia 4, which is tomorrow. So I cannot tell you right now what this will be about in detail, but judging from the trailer and images available here, I'd say it's just about as crazy as the first 3 games. And I can assure you that is an insane amount of craziness.
Well,
So,
one of the
be
screenshots
prepared.
that I've seen for it looks like Mario Kart. Another screenshot has people getting married. So I'm going to try to figure out how those two are correlated. I'm going to guess they're having a Mario Kart race to see who gets to marry the lady with no nose.
Yeah, that might be a possibility.
I don't know. I've always thought
Given the
the
strange
world of
things
Deponia
happening
looked
in
cool.
those games, that might be an actual possibility.
I have no. It's a point-and-click adventure game, dude. Anything's possible.
Indeed, you're right.
When you believe. Anyway, moving on. Up next is a game called Kim. Just called Kim. No last name, no middle name, no surname, just Kim.
That's
Could
a
be a guy,
game?
could be a girl, who knows?
That's a game?
It's by the Secret Company, the Secret Games Company. So secret, they don't even have a last name for it. It is-
This game is it this game on GOG even? Because I'm not sure.
It's on the list of games
I
you
don't
told
think
me I
so.
could talk about.
I don't think it's on GOG. So I don't know where you get this information from.
Was it not on the list of games? It better have been on the list of games you told me to talk about because I talked about it.
No. Yeah, you mean the Kim Kardashian game?
No,
Oh, yeah, sure.
I do not
You're
mean the
releasing
Kim
that.
Kardashian game. I do
We're
also.
releasing the game about Kim Kardashian naturally, because why not? And it will happen on the April the 1st, 2017. We will release it will be the launch of the mobile side of the GOG.com.
Also,
which
not
will be-
talking about a game about Kim Jong-il or Un.
Yeah,
Not talking about
that's
that
true.
either. I don't know.
Kin,
I'm
Kin
looking
is
at stuff
actually
and
on
it says-
GOG, and I wonder if Kin is actually having a highlight in there, because I did a cool stream with developers, and they're really cool. And Kin is actually on GOG. So if you mean Kin, it's a wonderful game.
I'm just reading what's in the thing. It says Kim.
I
Games
don't
Company.
see anything like that on the list.
Are you?
I don't see anything like that.
Do you actually?
You open the chat on Skype and look on the list. Is there anything like that? I don't see that.
Are you
There's
messing
a
with me,
list on your Skype.
Outstar? Are you messing with me?
I'm not messing with you.
Did I
There
say
is a
something
list on
I'm
your
not supposed
Skype
to
right
say?
now.
I
There.
I can't look at other things on Skype because that'll mess up all of the whatnots for face cams.
I will.
Why is your list different than my list?
There is a list I have.
Why is your list different than my list?
Yeah, it is.
What
it
the
is.
crap?
It is different. It's different.
Okay, never mind. We'll talk about Kim next week, apparently, or whenever that comes out. I don't know. I'm losing my mind here. All right, moving on. Let's talk about Subterranean, which is a game about submarines going through different terrain.
That's true. It's a game that
Okay.
Subterranean was actually played by Immersed Kimp today, as far as I know. So the first review on the GOG says, "Go get this." So I think you should go get this. It's a survival game actually, which is kind of though it's a top-down survival, and you're in a submarine, or actually isn't it like a sci-fi thing?
The game's not about submarines at all.
No, but it looks like it's like in a dark freaking area somewhere in like a deep underground or underwater anywhere.
Yeah,
but I actually read it's about the Mars.
Yeah, it's a zombie
means
survival
underground.
game on Mars, pretty much.
Mars, wow. All right. We can. I guess we can talk about Moon Hunters next. It's on the list.
Yeah.
We talked about Moon
Yeah.
Hunters
Yes.
a bit before, but it's on the list of things to talk about. So let's chat about Moon Hunters. Does it
Let me
work
just
now?
tell you before Crux will start his wonderful talking about this game. Let me just tell you guys that Crux is the guy who is like responsible for all the awesome fixes we are getting right now, because Crux is actually in the contact with developers. And after, we did the pre-release stream of Moon Hunters, and as you remember, we got a little bit of DCs in there. And although the game ran well in the multiplayer, in single player, because of these multi-issues that were there, the game was delayed because of our stream, I believe, and they were actually fixed, and it was amazing. The developers are really, really supportive, and Crux is being there for them and sending them bug reports after like sessions. He's doing the offline sessions with our moderators, with Santeria Sharian, with some of our streamers, and it's awesome. The guys are working here to make this game the best for you. So I just want to say I'm thankful.
I'd like to thank you for mentioning that.
I have to interrupt right now and completely derail the discussion, because Darksaber gave me his internet curse, and I have told you that before we started, but I haven't told Chad. My ISP actually tweeted to me that they fixed my connection, and right now Admiral Doc starts to have internet issues. I passed on the curse. It's gone from me.
Just
and now
keep it
Admiral
away
Doc's
from
problem.
me. Okay, I have enough issues. I have enough technical
I'm sorry,
issues.
Admiral Doc. I had no control over who will receive it. I'm sorry.
So yeah, Crux, tell us more about Moon Hunters. I want to hear from you.
Moon Hunters. Yeah, Moon Hunters. Moon Hunters is... Wait for it. Need to change the pages. Okay, I always forget how they title this. It's a personality test RPG. I always forget that description. But for serious, this is a game you can play single player or co-op or online co-op, whatever pleases you. And it's basically about running with the hero of your choice through a randomly generated story with randomized environments, and relive their story or build their legacy, their tale. And on your journey, there's interesting things you can encounter. In fact, you can even go that far as to eradicate a whole religion and just get everyone killed.
Oh my.
Well, that's a thing. On the other hand, you can also end up being a little selfish, mess with old artifacts, get your soul devoured, and be remembered as, well, what did they call that guy? It was TR-8R of the class traitor. And that guy actually got a statue. I don't know for what reason. He was possibly the most stupid guy I ever played in this game. Well, it was me making all the stupid decisions, but for some reason, when I finally encountered some of the places he visited again, there actually were standing statues of his presence, which was interesting. So yeah, you actually get to play this game multiple times, or you should, I'd rather say, because if you do so, you'll unlock more stuff. As you can unlock more spawn regions, you can unlock more regions to discover, you can unlock new endings for the story, you can unlock tons of stuff.
Can you unlock hats? Does the game have hats?
You can unlock new characters which have hats. Does that count?
Hats are very important to my interests.
Okay, awesome. Go for it. Sector, yes, I'm rambling. I love that game. For serious, this is one of the best games they recently played.
Awesome.
It's just awesome. I love it. So yeah, if you're in for adventuring in 1 to 4 player co-op games, and yeah, a little bit of combat is there, of course. It is not particularly hard. That's no hardcore ARPG you have there. No, there is combat. There is several enemy types, quite a lot actually, and yeah, it's an interesting game. You should definitely check it out, and it's even discounted right now. So yeah, give it a try.
All right.
Awesome.
Does the online work now?
The online works mostly. As Outstar already pointed out, I'm in contact with the developers, so we're actually working on some stuff there.
It's good
But
to hear
yeah,
that it's in the work, because
expected to get even better.
I only
But
played a
Yeah.
little
It
bit
works.
of the single player, but from the way that the game was designed, it seemed to be definitely focused around multiplayer. So it's glad to hear that they're getting that in the works. Although one of the characters is like a dark wizard lady who uses math, so you can summon the powers of math, the magics of math, which is
Yep.
I can't say I've ever
That's a
played a
thing.
game.
Magical functions. Right.
The only the math I remember in a game is like Number Munchers and the mathematician from I think the second Ratchet and Clank game. What's the first Ratchet and Clank game? I don't remember. He was obsessed with math.
I love
It's complex
ridiculous
equations.
weapons and ridiculous skills and whatnot. This is why I love Enter the Gungeon right now, because there are so many flippin' ridiculous weapons.
I saw a gun for Enter the Gungeon that was called a lowercase r that shot
Yes.
the words bullet and said bullet when you fired it.
Yes,
Like, that is
yes,
beautiful.
Yes,
That
yes,
is
it has that weapon. And it and actually today on when I was training the game, I actually unlocked an NES zapper, and the last shot in a magazine actually sends out a duck that will hunt down the enemy and kill it.
Oh, that's great.
Yes.
That's amazing. All right.
This is awesome.
There's one question on me, but we can move to that later. Mega Pieman, just to make sure we have the same list of the games.
I'm looking.
The only
I'm
two...
looking at a Skype now. I'm looking at a Skype.
Good.
now. I'm
Good.
sorry.
Okay.
I'm sorry. I thought. You see, I copied the list out of Skype into the sheet that we use for GOGCast, but then apparently somehow the sheet we use for GOGCast got reverted to the previous list and not the list that I then changed it to, and I didn't notice that happened. So
You're a magician. You're a magician of breaking things.
I'm a
Mega
math
Pieman.
magician,
Yeah.
man. I'm a math magician.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's true. That's
All
true.
right. Coming up next is the DLC to the remake of a game from 1989. We're talking about Baldur's Gate Siege of Dragon's Pair.
1989? What you talking about?
From what I read
1998 maybe,
19
or
maybe it was 1998.
1998 maybe. It's
Did I
like,
get that
no.
backwards? Did I read that wrong? I don't know. I looked it up on Wikipedia. Wikipedia sometimes.
Oh my god. No, it's like it's a newer game for sure. It's a classic game, and the Siege of Dragon's Spear. Well, I haven't played it. I've read a lot of comments about it online. For now, of course, it's a freaking feast for the fans of the original Baldur's Gate. Baldur's Gate, because I think this is like it's for the second one, or is it for the first one?
It's the first Baldur's Gate. It's for Baldur's
first one.
Gate Enhanced Edition.
Okay,
Not
so
Baldur's Gate
what
2
I know
Enhanced
about it
Edition.
is a lot of people love it, and a lot of people say that it's we have fun new adventures and new stuff in there, but there is some of the like a drama involved in the whole thing. The drama is about the thing that there was one woman working on the writing in the DLC. And she did an interview with Kotaku, and she said that because the original kinda was a little bit, like the games back in the days, it was showing women in a like, a specific view usually. There was also like no transgender characters. There were no non-cis characters in the gameplay. She wanted to actually do something with the DLC and actually add some of those characters to the game, which caused a backlash. And it can be both caused because, some people may be just stupid and they don't like those subjects, but the other argument on the actual behalf of the other side was that the writing is not that great.
Yes,
but
I've
it depends.
heard that a bit. I've heard that a bit. That the writing
It depends.
Kind of...
It depends on the actual dialogue. As far as I know from Reitana, who actually played the game, she told me that she plays that and she never actually met that character because he was secondary. The character that the whole drama is about, the character that is transgender, and he's apparently telling you that in the first sentence, in the first like lines of conversation. So yeah, it's just like there's a drama. You guys can read about it, but make sure to read about stuff from the both sides, because sometimes, I mean, on the one side it's great that people are fighting for the more diversity in the games. On the other side, it shouldn't go in the one hand with the bad writing, for sure, because it's not working for anyone's good. But that's just my opinion. I believe that it's worth checking out, but make sure to check out the reviews. I will make sure that you guys will see that game, at least the part of the DLC, on the stream. It will be played by Reitana. She will play that tomorrow, actually, so you can check it out.
All right. We're not going to go too much farther into that. We'll move on to the next game, which was one game that we did talk about last week, but now we've got somebody here who's actually played the thing. We thought we'd bring it up again, and that is Don't Starve Shipwrecked, the DLC for Don't Starve.
Yes. Wonderful DLC. It's really making the whole premise of a game new and kind of fresh, because now you are waking up on an island. It is pre-generated that you are not very much just screwed up at the very first of the game, landing up on an island where you can't find the items for you to actually build a raft and get somewhere away. So you are able to spend the first night or two, or even more if you want to, on an island which has some basic supplies for you, and you can actually make sure to make a living in there and build some basic supplies. But the premise is that you have to build yourself some kind of a naval equipment, some kind of a raft, or a better raft, or even better raft, and stuff to actually sail the seas and become a pirate. And while sailing the seas, you gotta make sure to that you have to respond to the winds, because the wind is kind of sailing you, showing you to the right direction. If you are trying to go under the waves, the other side that the waves are coming, then your raft is being destroyed, and you are getting damage. If you are going with the waves, the speed boost makes you go to the new islands faster. So it's kind of helpful. The whole game looks like super cool right now, and I'm really into it. The only problem is there is a very, very rare chance to find the gold nuggets, and unfortunately gold nuggets are something that you need in the game. Gold nuggets are something that was like, it's something you gotta find to build new items, actually like prototype new items that you can get. So I had a very huge problem. Within the 3 hours of the game, I found one gold nugget, which was not enough to survive the first two runs. So that is a small of a problem, which is known by the developers, and I think they will maybe patch the game to actually introduce more gold nuggets into it, more ores where you can mine that. But apart from that, it's very interesting.
Were you able to find much in the way of chicken nuggets?
Yeah, exactly. Chicken nuggets would be even better. But of course you can make chicken nuggets if you could find a chicken, but you can make bird nuggets. You can catch a bird and bake it. So there's a lot of new items.
Can't be any worse than we get from McDonald's.
It's not that bad. At least in Poland. It's better than KFC, which is terrible.
All right, so that seems to be all of the games we have covered. So I guess we will do a little bit of Q&A, and then I will spend the rest of the stream talking about the Doom multiplayer beta. I don't have any Q&A questions, so do we just go straight to Doom from here?
Well, actually,
Okay,
TKGia has asked a question in the chat, and question
Send
for you
them
if there's
to
any
me.
time.
I need them. Don't just post them in chat. Send them to me. Come on,
Well,
people.
Okay, so
I
there's
do
a
the work
question.
for you. I keep an eye on the chat and log questions if needed.
All right.
The
Just
question-
gotta say that.
What's
so
the question?
if there's a
Say the question. Say it.
I try. So yeah, how much work is involved in orientating and preparing a new streamer to the GOG stream once they are accepted?
There's plenty of work. The worst thing is actually to try to dose the waterfall of information, which is kind of big at first. The thing is, of course, the first thing we gotta make sure is that person is like want to join us and knows what we kind of like how we work. It's not like that person will be needed at first to save a slot and make a regular stream, because we are right now we introduced this thing about the guest streamers. So we do have like even when Toxicoid or Natural Day they want to join us, they were first invited for a guest stream, and you guys by your replies and by how you answer to the streams, you guys more or less decided if they will stay in the team. So as both of them had very good like replies from the community, and the community reacted very well to them, they're introduced to make a regular stream. So the thing is, so those guest streams can be done without much of the knowledge. What you have to know is, this live key, of course, and like very tiny bit of rules we have in there, and the rules are not that much. Like we kind of try not to be very offensive against other people. We do not show donations on the streams here that are personal. They're just coming to us. We are, those like tiny little things that are keeping this channel how it is, and how it's keeping it like not that much Twitch. Because when you go to a typical very very popular Twitch channel, what you see at first is like those like dubstep music in the background and a lot of donations and big overlays, and the game is just like tiny, this huge camera. So like we are trying to make a little set of rules to don't do this. But
yes, we would like to keep GOGcom off of the bad layouts Twitter feed as much as possible.
After April Fools it can change, but anyway.
Yeah.
Anyway, this is the first thing. But then when a person is actually, when you guys respond positively, that person has to sign NDA, and then we can actually introduce them to all docs we're using, to all the Skype groups we're using. And this is kind of like a huge waterfall of information. So believe me that a lot of the streamers, they're actually not responding to me a day or two after I send them all of that, because they have to transfer this information to their brain. It's kind of intimidating at first, because it's a lot of stuff, but it is very useful for us who are sitting into this, and we need this, like we need this stuff to actually somehow act right. So the sheets we're using are just like countless amounts of tabs, which are making most of the browsers break and crash. And of course,
fun fact, if it weren't for Flayos, who actually starts to archive like old revisions and delete stuff out, we actually hit like memory limits for certain browsers that made like our Google spreadsheets like crash browsers of certain streamers.
And we've only been doing this for a year, if that yet. Imagine in 5 years.
More than a year.
Yeah, more than a year.
Anyway, we are like, the first thing is that, but then we actually have this kind of like approximately 2 week of a time where new streamers consider a newbie, and in that time we are actually trying to help that particular person a lot. We have people on, more moderators and more streamers on that person's stream to make sure that everything is done right, and we do help those people with Moobot, we do help those people with dashboards, and we do have to ask them a lot if they need some help, because people tend to be afraid to ask for help at first. Regular streamers and most of us right now here in the team, they're all just like, we have no shame. We just go to the other streamers and, hey, you do Moobot for me. You owe me one Moobot. You owe me one. Like, we have no shame. We will just ask about anything. And the new streamers are usually ashamed for that, because they are maybe used to the teams on Twitch that are less helpful and that are less, together. We are very much like together, like a bunch of friends. We are just talking constantly about stuff and supporting each other in the like non-GOG projects too. So it's a little bit different than in the typical Twitch group. So we want to make sure that new people will, on the one side, don't feel overwhelmed by our friendship and by the fact that, because it is sometimes for some people, we had this thing that some people are kind of like coming to the team and, oh my God, it seems like you guys know each other so well. And it's like we've never met. We like we're just like having fun, and some people are just like a little bit afraid of that. But it gets better in time, because they kind of get to know us and get to know that we are like cool.
And of course, every new streamer kind of has like to survive this ordeal we put them through, like when they come first on Skype, we kind of like, okay, behave now, and nobody behaves, and everybody is like, totally information overkill and being like as bad as possible. I think you sent I'll say I think you sent Toxicoid that highlight from Secret Hitler, which she had to watch.
Yeah.
It was like, oh, that was great. And that's when we know, she's gonna fit into the team. That's good.
Exactly.
It's gonna be good.
Nobody's completely walked out on us within the first couple of minutes. So we're doing.
No one was like, oh my god, these are terrible people. I don't want to be here. Nobody did that. So I think we kind of have like a good selection so far.
I
never admitted openly.
I never admitted
it. The welcome period is actually pretty long. It's up to like 2 weeks of people getting to know each other, getting to know the rules, getting to know what's up. And if there are like any mistakes, we just don't care because it's okay. If someone just accidentally shows up the freaking live key, which happened a lot. If someone accidentally streams on GOG, although that person wanted to stream on their own channel, it's okay. We are very tolerant. And I'm actually, believe me or not, I'm trying to be the most helpful person ever in those first 2 weeks. I'm like using all my good human resources I have in myself to help those people. And if you have any questions, please ask. I'm here for you. I will be here. I have to go to sleep right now, but I will be here starting from this hour in EDT, this hour in PDT, this hour in CST, because people are usually in the freaking different time zones than I am. And so I'm just kind of a person for the first 2 weeks, and then I'm locking them in the basement. So it's like that. Yeah.
I just want to let chat know, Chad, I am reading chat, so you better behave. I'm not going to point out anybody specific, especially not EA. I'm not going to point out anybody specific at all. But you best behave, okay? That's all I got to say about that. All right. Any other questions to cover?
I don't think there are much more. If I missed some question, then it's now the time to cast it one last time. If I missed it, then I'm very, very sorry. But
from K-Mabel Nebula. Did you make Toxicoid drink a placenta smoothie? She thought it's a strawberry one, so don't tell her. Thank you.
What?
Doom. Okay, talk about Doom.
I'm going to talk about Doom! So over the last weekend, I played the Doom multiplayer beta, which I got access to from having one of the early copies of Wolfenstein: The New Order. I played the PS4 version, so I automatically started off doing it wrong. That's because I had a key from the PS3 version of Wolfenstein: The New Order. And it's not exactly... I mean, I didn't really know what to expect for Doom, but... they're definitely taking Doom in a different direction than I would have thought they necessarily would have done, considering the fact that Doom 4 is actually a very slow game, at least from what I played of it. I didn't get a chance to play a whole lot of it. I was also playing with a controller, which I haven't used since I played Wolfenstein: The New Order on the PS3, so it's been a bit. Took me a while to get used to that. But... it's weird how they kind of try to combine ideas together of old Doom and more modern shooters. So, I guess you could say Doom 4 is kind of more like Doom 3 than it is like Doom 2 or Doom 1, for some reason. But...
oh, wow, the stream is
there stream issues?
Suffering.
Are there a lot of stream issues?
It's back.
Twitch is doing something.
Is it better than Brutal Doom? I can't say that it's better than the old Dooms. All I can say is that it's a completely different kind of shooter, because it tries to combine ideas of old games and combine ideas of new games. So in the new game, you get access to 2 weapons and a grenade, and you can build a loadout, but you have access to like the super shotgun, a rocket launcher, a lightning gun, the plasma gun. So you get all of those classic weapons, but you can only carry 2 of them with you at a time. And you can't pick up guns from the ground. So you have to find ammo drops that are around the arena. You have to find armor drops that are around the arena. You have to find health pickups that are around the arena. There's also some weapons you can find, such as one called the Gauss Cannon, which will get a kill in one shot. They don't have the BFG. The BFG was not in the beta. I've heard that the BFG is going to be added into the full version, but it was not in the beta at all. But the game didn't focus as much on movement when I was originally playing it until I later on kind of figured out how they did it. So instead of having you move fairly quickly, what they gave you a thruster pack so you can do a double jump, which I find interesting because old Doom didn't have jumping at all. So you went from no jumping to now double jumping, which does add some really cool vertical gameplay instead of the more horizontal gameplay that you got out of the older stuff. So the new Doom is more modern. It's a bit slower. It focuses a bit more on verticality, which I actually like. I like verticality a lot in my video games. And it does have these sort of execution kills that they've been showing off a lot, that a lot of people are saying they got from something like Brutal Doom. So if you're fighting somebody and they get low on health, they'll start flashing. And if you press the melee button while they're flashing and you're close enough, you can then just execute them in a very quick animation. The animation's not that quick, so you need to be careful when you do it, or you might get shot by somebody else when you're in the animation. But I mean, it's kind of interesting. A problem that I had is I liked using the rocket launcher, but for some reason, the rocket launcher wanted to do a melee hit instead of shoot when I was telling it to shoot, which was extremely frustrating and caused me to die more than I would have liked it to. I'm just going to say that much. But there were only two game types, Team Deathmatch, and one called Warpath, which is basically King of the Hill, where the hill moves around the field. The coolest thing about Doom, the Doom multiplayer beta, is that they have power-ups that spawn that will allow you to turn into enemies. The only one available in the beta was the Revenant. So if you found one, you grabbed it, you would turn into a Revenant. The skeletons with the two big rocket launchers on on the sides of his shoulders, and you can fly around on a jetpack with it, and it was freaking awesome! I want more of that. I want a game mode that's just that. I just want that. If they could do like a Left 4 Dead thing where you have one team playing as monsters, or I think the multiplayer for Dead Space 2 did this. One team was playing as monsters and one team was playing as normal people. That would be freaking awesome. I don't think I'm going to get that out of the new Doom, but I did like that part.
That actually reminds me of another game. I need to look up the name. I'm not sure right now, but there's basically also that occult thing going on, and you can do that there, I think. Just let me quickly open that list I have here.
Yes, Mr. Fibble, it is progression-based, so you do get EXP that you have to use to unlock weapons, to unlock items to use, so it's got a progression system, which is annoying. Although, there wasn't that much in the beta to unlock, so I'd unlocked mostly everything that I could use throughout the little bit that I played of the beta. And it had a really cool thing for that. One of the grenades you could get wasn't actually a grenade, but it was a teleporter. You could chuck the teleporter and then teleport. So if someone was running at you, you throw the teleporter, teleport behind them, and shoot them in the back of the face. So that was actually really cool. It's got some cool ideas. I wish the game played quicker. About half an hour in, I felt like I'd already seen everything. Not that I'd seen all the content as in the maps, because there were only two maps, but I felt like I'd already seen everything mechanics-wise, which was a bit of a shame. I don't know if they'll be adding more in the full version, because there's apparently going to be an open beta coming up at some point, which makes me a little bit mad that there's going to be, they're going to make an open beta, so why the crap did I have to buy freaking Wolfenstein The New Order to get access to this beta, but now you want to do an open beta? I guess I'll get the chance to try it on PC then. But
did you have a feeling like it's we take the Doom franchise and we make it into Halo a little bit?
It looks like Halo. I mean, the uniforms of the people that you have look like Halo, but it does not play as slow as Halo. It's slower than I would feel for Doom, but it doesn't play as slow as Halo. Halo can sometimes be a very slow game because you're trying to break down people's shields and that kind of stuff. If you're like specifically on a guy and shooting the crap out of them, they're going to die relatively quickly. One of the things I thought was cool, though, is you can actually turn aim assist on and off in the options menu. Don't do that if you're on a controller, because then you'll never hit anything. But I think it's a cool idea for if you're playing online, you can turn aim assist off and get that more authentic feel out of it of, everybody else around me sucks because I'm playing with aim assist and kicking the crap out of them. So, if you want to do that, do it. The worst thing about it was these things they call hack nodes. Now, what hack nodes are is they're basically cheats that you can unlock by dying. So when you die, you'll revive. And when you come back to life, you'll have this hack node active for a couple of seconds. And one of them gives you extra armor. Another one is called Vitality and allows you to see the health of the enemies you come across. Another one lets you see the spawn times for the ammo, health, and whatnot around the field. So I wasn't a big fan of that for a couple of reasons. One, I don't think that you should be necessarily rewarding people for dying. Something I didn't like a lot that they did with Call of Duty was with death streaks. It's like, don't do that. That let people figure the game out for themselves, don't reward for dying. And I also didn't like that because they took functionalities that should be in the game, such as being able to see how long it takes for something to respawn. I think some of the old arena shooters, like if you grabbed an armor item or you grabbed a specific item, it would then show you how long it would take for that